Did you buy the ticket specifically to see Faith?
No, it was part of a pyramid scheme.
Trying to think of how to phrase this in the best way. It didn't even...
Did he just say careful?
But not in the way that you brought up, like mixing two girls dating at the same time.
Math is a math thing.
During the 1 week we were apart, I did have sex. With the girl who gave me gonorrhea.
I will break your face.
It sounds like he's your only option. And if you feel you cut that off, now you go back to being alone and being lonely. No, you gave up in the first couple of days, right? Well, because you wanted some time to let it grow and you were like, get off the pot. And your outfit's beautiful and everything, but you're like a hair away from a burqa. It's not America, it's not come to USA, enjoy the milk and honey, all the gold in the street.
We have arrived to my favorite time of the year, the tell-all. Why do you ask? Because I yell at my TV. Why is Nikki yelling at her TV? Because these people get on their high horses and start throwing stones from glass houses.
They do not value 90% of their opinion at all, so I could really care less.
Let's get into this crap show. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We are here to discuss Before the 90 Days, the tell-all part 1. There's a rumor out in the streets that this tell-all is going to be in 4 parts. Do we need 4 parts? I don't know, but I hope that it delivers. I'm gonna jump straight in. As always, before we do, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for being here. We get the usual. Everyone's arriving to New York City. Everyone's arriving to the studio. There's a random scene of Loren talking to birds. I thought it was funny that he was the only one coming out of the train station. Ryan is rolling up, already making his agenda very clear. He's like, yeah, you know, like, I made some mistakes, but Ingrid is no angel. So we already know that his whole appearance is about to be a smear campaign against Ingrid, and like, there is no redemption for that man. Niles and Matilda are being really cute on FaceTime. He tells her like, hey, if I get too angry, please stop me, which I think was a big foreshadow because Niles was angry in this tell-all. The plastics make an appearance, aka Tigerlily&Adnan. Yes, he's in America. They kind of spoiled that for us on Instagram, but yeah, they're here. We see Vanya and she's having like this slow-mo Sex in the City moment. But what I want to get into backstage, there's a moment where Adnan lets us know from the start like he's going to be a menace in this reunion. He sits down in the green room and he's like, yeah, like, don't mess with me. Don't be ridiculous with me. If you respect me, I respect you. But in the same breath, he's like, hey, Loren, do you have any diseases right now? And I'm like, oh my God. Honestly, seeing them all backstage is a nightmare rotation. But they're there, all looking like they're dressed for different events. It's time for the reunion to start. Shaun Robinson is a vampire. She looks incredible. Let's hope that she asks good questions. I'm just always questioning if she watches the show because I always feel like her questions can be better. But anyway, she's there. And of course, the first thing they tell us, yeah, there's a couple missing. Rayneandchidi will not be part of the reunion. We wish them well. They were one of the most salacious couples this season. We can't get a blurb. Maybe that's why Renee is going off on social media and she's giving us so much because she knew that they would do them this way. But I kind of wish that Chidi at least would have been brought in, like something. They were such a huge part of the season. But before we dive into the meat of this episode, we get a few updates. Vea is looking like Britney Spears on the monitor. She was actually supposed to be in studio, but apparently when she got back from South Africa, she was super sick. She lost like 50 pounds. I don't think she was like strong enough to travel. We see Tigerlily&Adnan's baby. The baby is 6 weeks old. It's a baby boy. Niles and Matilda haven't seen each other in like 10 months. Who else?
The number you have dialed has been changed. The new number is...
Brian has a new victim. He is in a new relationship. Ingrid also has moved on. And then Faith and Loren. They weren't together when we last saw them, but apparently they have gotten back together. So we're going to jump straight into their segment. Apparently they got back together. Loren thinks that they're engaged. When Shaun asks Faith if she thinks that they're engaged, she's like, no, I don't consider us engaged. Loren gives this dramatic story about how he sent her an engagement ring. in a box, but the box got like kidnapped. I don't know. It was it already set the tone for just how off the wall he was gonna be. And so Shaun starts asking Faith about the relationship, and this girl immediately is crying. And I'm like, Faith, it seems like you have a lot of trauma. Like, this person brings you a lot of distress. I understand he's your first love, but he's not anything to hold on to. But she's crying because I really do think that Faith thinks that this is the best that she can do. And when I tell you guys that Niles is on Loren's neck, the whole time he's like, Faith, believe what he's showing you. This is what you're gonna get. Like, can you live with this? They recap the last night's event when he was like playing, with the butter knife. And of course, there's people like Brian being like, she was overreacting. And then there are other people that understood that, like, he did that to incite that reaction from her. He likes to do things for attention. People were getting at the fact that he was disloyal, the fact that, like, he was sleeping around without her consent. He claims that he sent her a message saying that he's sleeping with people, that she's aware. And he's like, yeah, like, it must have been a misunderstanding with the language. And I just don't believe that, because from the start, it was a big deal that he was going to have this conversation with her. If you knew that you had to have that conversation with her, then you also knew that she was under the impression that you weren't sleeping with other people. So, like, don't try to switch the story now. Then they bring out his friend / his ex-girlfriend, aka his enabler, Esther. And Esther herself says that Loren is a guy that, he always has a backup. Until someone says, only be with me, he's gonna keep sleeping with people. And that's BS. First of all, I think it is completely irresponsible to put that responsibility on Faith. But also, if that's the truth, then he should have listened to Faith, because Faith from day one was like, I'm all about you. You need to be all about me. We're monogamous. There was never a conversation about him being open. So that automatically is like debunked. But then Esther, after she realizes the fact that, like, Faith didn't know, Esther's like, I should have told him that he should have been clear. I should have pushed that he told you the truth. And I'm like, Esther, this isn't your responsibility. You're not his handler. He is a grown man. He should have communicated that with Faith. The fact that she was taking that on like it was hers, I was disturbed. Because you can see that that is their dynamic. And I've always said this from the beginning, but, like, the way that Loren communicates is really frustrating for me, and everyone is calling it out. Like, Faith is crying, this man is smiling, laughing, and they're like, are you okay? And he's like, it's a defense mechanism because I don't like to see her cry, so that's why I'm smiling. How is that making her feel any better? What are you doing for her in that? But again, he keeps saying things that, like, I don't understand how he thinks that that would ever make anyone feel good. So Esther is going on and on about how, like, he's just so gullible. And they jump into this conversation that his whole trip to the Philippines in itself was a pyramid scheme. Y'all, apparently, he started talking to someone from the Philippines that, he was like, oh, they're my type. They're not from America. They're a ladyboy, according to him, and they want to get married. So he buys his flight to go to the Philippines to be with them. But apparently, before he went, he found out that this person isn't trans, and they were just taking all of his money. So when this fell through, I'm guessing he already was signed up for the show. He was like, I need to find me another Philippines girl. And in a matter of days, that is how he found Faith. So if I were Faith, I would be hearing this and I'd be like, wait, I'm a backup. He didn't like me. I'm just an opportunity. What am I doing here? And everyone's like, oh, so, like, Faith was just checking boxes for you. He's like, no, like, I love Faith and she's attractive, right? Right? Like, again, nothing that he says inspires authenticity. Nothing that he says inspires confidence. So I'm just like, Faith, what are we doing here? And again, Faith is listening to this and she was aware that this person stole money from him, but I don't think she was aware of, like, how close the timeline was. So then Shaun starts asking like about the timeline of it all, because when we saw them, they were broken up. So she's like, have you like been with anyone else since you've been here? And he's like, yeah, in the week that we were apart. So I'm guessing he got back from the Philippines. They were broken up for a week and then they got back together. In that week, you guys, he went back to the Ghana girl. Yes. Yes, he did. And everyone is appalled because they're like, do you not understand? There's just a lot there, right? Because it's aside from the fact that this was a person that gave you that, like I would have PTSD regarding that. Also, like if you're trying to get back with Faith, then make sure that you have a clean slate when you are trying to get her back. But he doesn't care to impress her. And everyone's like, Faith, did you know this? And Faith doesn't know. She didn't know that. And she also is like, I think almost like disassociating, because she's like, I want to believe all of the good that he is. So I'm trying to like get past all of the bad. And I'm like, you shouldn't have to go through the mental Olympics to be with someone. And then they show us a never before seen clip, you guys, which I think was unnecessary. I think that they did it to basically make us be more disgusted at him. It was the scene right after he's like, yeah, I have gunk in my junk. That scene. They play us a never before scene of them like in the car where he's like, yeah, I drink urine. Like I'm telling you, it had zero purpose other than to disgust us. And everyone on set was like, this is why we didn't want to hold your hand. Like, and it felt like a humiliation ritual, honestly. Adnan is basically like, somebody quarantine that man. And Niles is like, you're evil. So then Brian inserts himself into this conversation. And he's like a one-trick pony. He does this in every segment. He questions the foreigner about why they're in this relationship. Is it because of the American dream? Is it because all that he can supply? So he asks Faith if she's sticking around through all the BS with Loren because of what he can provide. And Faith is like, I'm very grateful for any help that he provides, but like, that's not why I'm with him. And if we recall, Loren was trying to be with Faith because she's a hardworking woman with her own shelter and her own place of employment. She doesn't have a lot, but she has her bases covered. We do learn, though, that Loren has been helping Faith, which I don't see there's anything wrong with that. But it's the way that he like goes about it that no one asked for this. And also, like, it doesn't clean your slate. He's like, yeah, you know, like, I eat from the garbage. I starve myself so that I can send her stuff. And I wouldn't be flattered by that because I saw a podcast interview that he did before he got on the show where he said that he purposely starves himself so that he can pay for dates, so that he can have places to stay with women. And I just feel like that's mental illness and he needs help. And also that money that he is splurging on women to sleep with them, to have a place to stay, he could just use it towards a motel. But that man, I think that there's something deeply twisted with that. And so he talks about how he's sending like cleaning supplies and things like that to her family, which again, I think are great. But I also feel like that doesn't make you a better person. And it's just so interesting how like some of the men like changed their tune when they heard that, like, oh, like he's really trying to be good deep down. No, I think that everything that he does is super manipulative. And that's where they leave it for this segment. They're certainly going to come back to them in another part, but I think that they had enough in this segment. We move on to Vanja&Bozo. Bozo looks so uncomfortable. He's immediately jumping into like being a showman, and it's like, sir, we saw what you did on the show. Like, I think the less you say, the better. And so they play the montage of their relationship. They play back the scene where he flat out lies about saying I love you, and she like shows him to his face, you said I love you. This is something that we did, and then you friend zoned me. And so when they pan back to him, he's like, yeah, sometimes I make jokes. And everyone's like, you don't joke about that. Like, obviously she was telling you that she took you at face value. Like, That's messed up. He's avoiding all of the questions, and then Brian again inserts himself and tells Vanya that like she was rushing things, that maybe if she would have given it time, that he could have developed feelings. And I just think that that is so funny that Mr. You Need to Sleep With Me on night one is talking to anyone about rushing timelines. I could not believe that that man opened his mouth to say that when Ingrid is right there to call his bluff. But anyways, Bozo is really like, haha, yeah, I realized that she was out of my league, so I just thought it would be best to just keep it as friends. Vanya is crying through all of this. She is sweating out her pink eyeshadow. Her cousin comes in and she's like, Bozo, you were talking all of this crap, and then in person, you did nothing. So at this point, they're all going in circles. So Joe is like, my dude, did you have a girlfriend? Because you were acting like you were afraid that you were going to get caught up on camera. Did you have someone? To which Shaun then is like, yeah, did you get back with that ex-girlfriend that you were talking about? And Bozo is like, oh, we didn't get back together, but we did talk as friends. And Vanya's like, oh yeah, friends? Like, you claimed that we were friends? And then Vanya's like, because your ex messaged me. And then they pull up the message. And basically the ex is like, hey, I just feel a little weird about this because I feel like Bozo was emotionally cheating on me with you. And so I just want to know about the timelines, because then he was also talking about proposing to me, and I'm unclear about where things were. Bozo claims that he wasn't cheating on the girls, that he never mixed timelines, but he definitely was. Because Bozo is one of those guys that like you have to ask him the questions in the right way, or like he'll be very calculated with what words he uses. He's like, no, I wasn't dating them at the same time, but you know, our friendship timelines might have mixed and it may look like that. But no, I wasn't cheating on them. He definitely was. And again, this man is doing mental gymnastics to avoid any responsibility. And he's desperately trying to be a good guy. He's like, yeah, you know, like I was trying to be respectful. That's why I didn't do this and that. You were being respectful. You were friend zoning her after you led her on because you decided that you wanted to be with the next girl. Nothing about what you did was good guy material. And so then I guess they asked him one too many questions and he's like, you know what, guys, this has been great. I gotta go. I'm late to a meeting. And everyone's like, it's 10 p.m. your time. Like, what meeting are you going to? And he's like, yeah, I'm 2 hours late. Gotta go. And Vanya's like, you owe me this. You need to stay and talk to me. And he just leaves. All we see is an empty chair. And I was cracking up because Adnan was like, what is the reason? It reminded me of that Cardi B meme. What is the reason? But yeah, he was like, honestly, this is stepping into a territory where I can't get myself out of. Y'all are pulling up my ex-girlfriend's messages. I got a blast. Next up is Adnan and Tigerlily, and y'all, they jump straight into the power of attorney situation. Apparently, Adnan did take it back, which I love that for Tigerlily, because it didn't have any limits. If it was strictly for business, it would have been one thing. But for his brother to have access to all of their assets, I think that it would have been super irresponsible. So I'm glad that she put her foot down on that. Shaun is being super messy and immediately asks Vanya what are her thoughts on that. Vanya had already said in the green room that she doesn't like Adnan because she has a problem with the way that he's super controlling and thinking that women are beneath him. So she's like, you know, I think it's great that, you know, Tigerlily wanted to protect herself. Adnan turns and looks at Vanya and is like, wow, if you care so much about protection, you should have protected yourself against that guy. And my thing is like, yeah, but also you should be throwing that to Shaun. Shaun is the one that made her answer. So then they bring out Cruz. I'm like, what happened to the Shays? Y'all are a collective. They bring him out. You know, he's been her hairstylist for like 20 years and he's no longer able to shake her hand, hug her, nothing. And they ask Cruz his thoughts and Cruz is like, yeah, in the beginning I did think that it was a lot. And I do think that they rushed into it all for kids. And I thought that it was really fast and it was unnecessary. Everyone chimes in being like, yeah, why rush it? You maybe would have felt more comfortable with certain decisions that were made if you didn't get married in less than 4 months. Adnan again is like, why wait? Why waste time? Then they play back some scenes displaying their differences and beliefs. The ones where Tigerlily questions the double standards, and they play back that scene where he tells her that her mind is small. And Vanya reacts to that because she's like, I could never be with someone that tells me that my mind is small, like you don't respect me. Adnan is like moving his head like a bobblehead, like mocking Vanya. And so Shaun is being super messy and she's like, Tigerlily, on camera, you had a lot to say. There were a lot of things that you didn't agree with, yet here on this day, you seem to be agreeing with everything that Adnan is saying. Like, what has changed? You seem to not be too comfortable expressing yourself. Here's the thing. I thought that was a bit of a projection. Up to this point, I didn't think Tigerlily was being uncomfortable. Do I think that things are perfect in the relationship? Absolutely not. I do think that Tigerlily and Adnan are the plastics. They like to appear like everything's perfect, even if it's not. But I don't think that she was necessarily holding back. I think that she doesn't like making a scene and she knows that she's with a drama queen. So while I do think that she wants to look perfect, I don't necessarily think that she was like holding back anything big. I didn't like that too much because I feel like that's part of like the Muslim agenda that this network seems to have. And I don't like it. People could have different beliefs and be respectful. I think what I don't like about Adnan is that he's disrespectful. But I don't think that has anything to do with him being Muslim. Does that make any sense? And so Adnan is so terrible and people want to call him out and they should. But I think in turn, they are kind of projecting onto Tigerlily. So it's a little off, but like I get it. Because Niles then comes at Adnan and he's like, Adnan, it's killing you to let her speak. Like every time she opens her mouth, you look so annoyed. And I think he does look annoyed because his default is defensive. And so then Adnan is like, yeah, I am controlling because I'm the husband. I'm responsible. I think everything he does makes it worse. And also, I just can't take him seriously. I just can't imagine letting a 22-year-old run my life. I just think all of this gets a little mixy because while this dynamic would never work for me, if this works for her, I'm not going to tell her that it's wrong. So I think that's where this becomes like a losing battle. She's happy. She's not going anywhere. Things do get a little interesting because then they play a never before scene of Tigerlily talking to Adnan's mom. And if you guys watch most of my recaps, I always said, Tigerlily, why don't you use his mom as a resource? If you're going to learn anything about his culture, about his beliefs, talk to the source. And this conversation was super enlightening, and I wish that they would have showed it to us earlier. Adnan's mother is flat out being like, I didn't raise him to be this strict in those beliefs. I believe that everyone is free to do as they please. I think that there's certain things that are Arab about us. You are not Arab. I am not holding you to that. She's like, none of my sons should be oppressing their wives. She said that. And I just think that's so interesting, right? And so everyone's like, oh. And he claims that that was a translation error. Sir, they get professional translators. And he's like, I know best. You guys don't know Arabic. And they're like, the translation's right there. And so Vanya's talking, and again, he's doing the thing where he's mocking her. And I just think that it's so interesting that because Vanya is wearing less, he views her as less. And that's why he's talking to her like that. He doesn't view her as an equal. And so there's a moment where they ask Tigerlily how she feels about what his mom said. And this man says, be careful. And that sent alarm bells in my entire body. Don't you dare tell me to be careful, to tread lightly with what I say. What are you going to do to me? That was a threat. And Joe, I was like, oh, Joe is there. And Joe opens his mouth and he says something. When he said that, I was like, okay, this isn't a projection. Joe said, you are on edge, Adnan. On edge, you are walking on eggshells. And Tigerlily keeps glancing over at you and shifting in her seat. And you could see that that is affecting how she's answering questions. And that's not something that you make up. That is an observation. That made me worry. So Adnan has a hissy fit and he's tired of everyone saying that he's affecting Tigerlily. So he like walks off, but then he tells them, all of you need to tread carefully with what you say to my wife. And he walks off, and Tigerlily, she looks a little embarrassed, but she will never fully show that because again, they're the plastics. And oh my God, like that was such an intimidation tactic because whether or not he's in the room, he lives with her. His presence is always present in her life and will always be in the back of her mind when she says anything, you know? Then Brian is like, oh, you're borderline wearing a burqa. And I just thought that that was uncalled for. Yes, she's dressed a little more modest, but I do believe her when she says, I just had a baby. I'm not about to be out here in a body con. I thought that she looked beautiful. I'm not here to pick her body apart. I'm not here to pick apart her outfit. I'm here to pick apart the fact that like she's letting this child talk to her any kind of way. And I know that Tigerlily is delusional because Shaun is like, why do you think he got so upset? And Tigerlily's like, oh, he's not upset. I would know if he was upset. They pan to Adnan backstage. He is furious. He's fuming. He's like, these people are stupid. Look at how they talk to me. They're being so disrespectful. If they upset my wife, we're going to have big issues. So it's crazy that she's like, he's not upset. And I honestly feel like when she was seated there, she was full on disassociating because she didn't even catch all of the remarks that he made. She didn't catch when he told her, be careful. She didn't catch when he told everyone, tread carefully. She didn't hear any of that. And I think that is scary. And so then there's a break and we see when she comes out, he is fully like overcompensating, like, my angel, how are you? What did you say? And she's like, normal stuff. Tigerlily blinked twice. But again, like, I hope she's okay. But if she weren't okay, we would never really know because she thinks that everyone's jealous of her. She's like, we are a success story. So that's why they're just jealous. Then we see them all at the green room. Adnan comes in and he's like, why don't you guys respect my relationship? Da 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 da. Brian tries to have like a bro moment where he's like, you know, like, you just have to mature, like, you're too headstrong. And Adnan tells Brian, like, you're a guy in a chair, basically. Like, what can you teach me? What can I learn from you? And Brian is like, your ego needs help. Like, I'm in this chair because of this ego, and I don't want your path to be derailed because of it. And again, like, I get it, they're on a show, but I'm also like, everybody mind your business, go to your corners. But it's just so wild to see how, like, Adnan really thinks that he is superior. Yes, Brian is trash, but it has nothing to do with his chair. He's trash because it's a character flaw. But you are not any better. I feel like everyone here has their issues, and we shouldn't be attacking each other, you know what I mean? But from this moment on, Adnan is like, no more Mr. Nice Guy. And Tigerlily is like, who cares? Next up is Niles&Matilda, the lovebirds, the true success story of the season. They have not seen each other in like 10 months. He says that they're waiting for the interview, but he also says that they haven't finished paying up all of the paperwork. So I'm like, are you waiting for an interview if you haven't paid everything up? But part of the reason why their process has had a late start is because he doesn't have money, you know? It's a huge undertaking and he doesn't have support. He gets asked about his parents and he's like, think about it. They didn't approve of my wedding. How do you think they are right now? Moral of the story, they have not changed. They think that Matilda is scamming him. And Matilda's like, if I wanted to be with someone with money, I would go elsewhere. This is where Brian inserts himself again. Yeah, you could be with someone with money, but it's different because you may want the American honey. America is really not the end-all be-all for people all over the world. Do I think Matilda wants to come to America? Yes, but she could have been with anyone else. I don't think that's why she's in it. She really loves Niles. There's a pause in Niles&Matilda though because the plastics come back in and they want to rehash the whole situation between Brian and Adnan. Adnan doubles down and he's like, yeah, I said that I can't take advice from a guy in a chair because what am I going to do taking advice from someone that does drugs and cheats on his wives? And I'm like, again, you are not wrong. It is just coming from the wrong messenger, wrong tone. It was just so unnecessary to say. And I also think it's interesting that Adnan thinks that Brian and everyone else wants to change him to be a bad person because all of these people are so evil and he is so fundamentally good. That's not what anyone is trying to do. Everyone is literally being like, grow up. And so again, because he's no more Mr. Nice Guy. And so then Adnan turns his attention to Niles and Matilda and he's like, well, how would you feel, Matilda, if other men look at your body? How would you think that Niles would feel? And she's like, he would be jealous. And Niles is like, Matilda, like, I wouldn't be jealous. And then Adnan starts laughing, hysterical. He starts laughing like he is an evil villain. Like, ha 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 ha. I've started some drama with them. Like, it is so disturbing because what is the reason? He starts laughing like a maniac and then he's like, oh, so you want a sugar daddy? Which is so disrespectful to say that to a married woman. And Niles turns to him and he's like, I will break your face. And that is where this episode ends. Y'all, the beef between Adnan and Niles is gonna kick up. I saw a preview of Niles getting in his face being like, from the South, he's lifting his glasses. And he's like, from the South, we handle things a certain way. And Adnan is just laughing in his face. And again, Adnan really thinks that he is better than people. And I don't like the way that he looks at Niles. And I think he looks down on Niles because Niles has autism. And that immediately makes me want Niles to punch him. And I know it's not going to happen because it's on television and they have the security guards. But just knowing that that is probably what Adnan is thinking makes me want just to see it. Just like a quick little uppercut. Like, I want to see it so bad. But yeah, you guys, that was the end of this episode. Let me know your thoughts. I cannot wait. What was your favorite moment? Is there something that you're looking forward to seeing in the next 3 parts? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.